America's secret bunker that can survive nuclear war. Somewhere beneath the granite spine of the Appalachian Mountains, there is a door built to survive the end of the world. Not a metaphor. An actual door. 34 tons of blast-hardened steel, swinging shut on hinges engineered to seal an entire mountain from a direct nuclear strike. Behind it, a self-contained city, built to keep the machinery of the United States government running after everything above ground has been reduced to ash. Most Americans have never heard its real name. Fewer still know it may already be active right now as you watch this. To understand why this place exists, you have to go back to a moment when American leaders genuinely believed a nuclear war could begin within minutes and end within hours. In the early 1950s, the Soviet Union detonated its first hydrogen bomb, and Washington realized something uncomfortable. An enemy missile could now erase the entire chain of command in one strike. A president, a cabinet, a Congress, a Supreme Court, all of it gone in a flash of light over the Potomac. If the government died with the capital, the country would have no one left to give orders, negotiate a ceasefire, or even confirm the nation still existed. That single realization launched one of the most secretive construction projects in American history. Deep inside Raven Rock Mountain, straddling the Pennsylvania-Maryland border just a few miles from Camp David, engineers began carving out a hollow fortress in solid granite. Locals nicknamed it Site R. Officially, it barely existed. Trucks disguised as commercial deliveries hauled away tons of blasted rock at night. Workers were told they were building a mining operation. In reality, they were constructing an underground complex large enough to house buildings inside a mountain. An internal world with roads, a power plant, water reservoirs, and communication centers, all wrapped in hundreds of feet of solid stone designed to absorb the shockwave of a direct nuclear detonation. But Raven Rock was only one piece of a much larger puzzle. A few hours away, hidden beneath Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado, the military built an entirely separate fortress. This one designed not for the president, but for something arguably just as critical: the eyes of the United States military. Cheyenne Mountain became the nerve center for North American air defense, a bunker built on massive steel springs so powerful that the entire complex could sway and absorb the force of a nearby nuclear blast without collapsing. Engineers didn't just want the mountain to protect the people inside. They wanted the building itself to survive being shaken like a toy in a violent storm. By the late 1950s, America had quietly built not one bunker, but an entire hidden network stretching from the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia to the Colorado Rockies. Mount Weather, tucked away near the Virginia-West Virginia border, became one of the most important of them all. A facility so secret that for decades the government refused to publicly confirm its true purpose. Officially, it was described as a weather station. In reality, it was designed as the primary relocation site for the highest levels of the federal government, complete with dormitories, a hospital, a crematorium, and enough infrastructure to sustain top officials for months after a nuclear exchange. None of this would matter, though, without a way to actually use it. A bunker with no communication is just a tomb. So the government built redundant systems layered on top of redundant systems, hardened phone lines, underground fiber networks, and airborne command posts like the modified Boeing aircraft known as the Doomsday Plane, capable of allowing a president to issue nuclear launch orders while flying above a burning world. The entire architecture was built around one unforgiving assumption: any single point of failure could mean the collapse of command authority at the exact moment it mattered most. This is where military doctrine becomes deeply personal. Continuity of government isn't just paperwork, it's an entire logistical philosophy built around survivability. Planners had to think through brutal questions most people never consider. How many days of food and water does a bunker need if the surface is uninhabitable for months? How do you filter air contaminated with radioactive fallout without letting a single spore of it inside? How do you keep morale intact among people who know their families outside may not have survived? Every ventilation shaft, every blast door, every backup generator exists because someone once sat in a room and forced themselves to imagine the absolute worst version of the future. History gives us a chilling preview of how close these systems came to being tested for real. During the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962, key personnel were placed on alert to move to relocation sites within hours, as American and Soviet forces edged toward direct confrontation over nuclear missiles 90 miles from Florida. Decades later, on the morning of September 11, 2001, Vice President Dick Cheney was rushed into the Presidential Emergency Operations Center beneath the White House, a bunker built specifically for moments when the unthinkable seemed suddenly possible. These weren't training exercises, they were real activations of a system built for exactly one purpose: keeping the government alive when everything else might not survive. So what would actually happen if the unthinkable occurred today? In a genuine nuclear crisis, protocols would trigger within minutes. Military aircraft would scramble to retrieve the president. Secure convoys would move toward known and unknown relocation sites. Communication systems would shift to hardened backup channels resistant to electromagnetic pulse damage. Deep inside these mountains, blast doors weighing dozens of tons would seal shut, isolating the interior from a shockwave capable of flattening cities above. It wouldn't be cinematic, it would be procedural, rehearsed, and terrifyingly calm, because chaos is exactly what these systems were built to eliminate. The consequences of such an event would stretch far beyond American borders. Global markets would freeze overnight. Allied nations would activate their own continuity protocols, uncertain whether Washington's chain of command still functioned. Military postures across NATO and rival powers would shift to their highest alert levels, each side watching the other for any sign of further escalation. And even if these bunkers succeeded in preserving leadership, the country they were meant to lead would be forever altered, a nation attempting to rebuild not just its cities, but its sense of permanence and safety. Today, many of these facilities remain active in some form, quietly maintained, periodically upgraded, their true operational status classified even now. Officials rarely confirm which bunkers are still in use, how many exist that the public has never heard of, or what technology now protects them. What we do know is this: beneath the calm surface of American political life, an entire hidden infrastructure has existed for more than 70 years, built not out of fear alone, but out of a sober acknowledgement that survival sometimes requires preparing for the worst version of history before it happens. Maybe the most unsettling part of this story isn't the steel doors, the granite walls, or the underground cities built to outlast the end of the world. It's what their existence tells us about the world we've been living in all along. A world where survival was never guaranteed, only carefully, quietly planned for. The bunkers are still there. Whether we ever need them is a question none of us can answer. But the fact that someone built them,